So of course you know James Gunn just remade the DCU, and the DC Cinematic Universe is what I mean. Is like the suit that he's gonna use for Batman Brave the Bold to introduce Batman. And I'm gonna have 3 categories, which is like utility belt design, cape design, logo, cowl, and the gadgets I'd like him to use. But we're gonna start off with the logo. So what I would do with the logo is I wouldn't do the yellow oval bat symbol, because the last time that was used was back in the 1966 Batman and 1989 to 1992 Batman. Then that infamously went away, which that made a point to make it more realistic and gritty. But this time I'd lay off the armor, because I feel like for once we should get a spandex suit, maybe like Alex Ross's Batman, which he had a spandex suit and it still looks pretty realistic, and he still looks like Batman. It still looks semi-real. And but instead I would do blue cape and cowl, blue gloves. I'd kind of make it like Dan Mora's Batman, which is World's Finest Batman, the newer one. But I wouldn't make it like a goofy blue. I'd make it like a navy blue, because if I make it a navy blue, then that would be perfect. That would be absolutely perfect for it to be able to have a gritty tone. Next category, since we already covered 2, is going to be eyes. What would I do with the eyes? Would I like big eyes like Michael Keaton's Batman? But what I want to do is have like animated series type eyes, or just white eyes. They should put contacts into the actors' eyes to make them white eyes, because the white eyes make Batman way more intimidating. And the fact that no one's even thought about putting contacts into their actors to make their eyes white is absolutely crazy, because I would have done that idea years ago. I think I would have done that for 1989. Or maybe do like a Spider-Man type lens situation where you could take the lens off and then put them back on, and they're magnetic to the face. Like I don't know why you wouldn't do that, because you could perfectly do some amazing white eyes for Batman in the DCU with contacts or lenses. And especially if you do lenses, because then you can do any shape, size or fit you want. And I feel like there should be a Dark Knight Returns movie, like in this series, where Damian, but it's not the comic. I feel like we should for sure do something for like the whole suit, like Ben Affleck's Batman, but I really want the suit to be blue. I want it to be our second adaptation of the blue, where it's not some goofy spin-off of the 1960s. Because the only times we've seen blue was in the Flash movie, which was with Ben Affleck's suit, which for I'd say 10 minutes he was in the movie, and 1966. That was the only times we've seen the blue suit in live action. And I feel like the blue suit would be a nice refresher and something new from what we've always gotten, which is just a black suit which is armored. And I feel like there should be zero armor. It should be shaped like Batfleck's suit, where there's a whole bunch of like muscle, and there's and it looks like the Dark Knight Returns suit. That's why I think he's one of the best Batman. Which you can fight me on this if I'm wrong, but it was just the directing that was bad. Ben Affleck had a really good role as Batman. I feel like he played a really, really good Batman, because in the Batman vs. Superman specifically, because Batman vs. Superman is better than Justice League. I don't even know what bullshit they were doing with Justice League. They messed up Justice League so much. But no side conversations, because I might do 2 topics if this video is too short. But I feel like it was just Zack Snyder was kind of really dumb when he was making the movies for the DCEU, and I feel like Batman vs. Superman is really overhated. I feel like it's at least a 7 out of 10 movie. Not only because I feel like it's also because Superman had a good role in it. I like how they displayed that Batman even had trauma, unlike the other movies, where they wouldn't display a single second of that. Because in every other movie, there was not a single time where Batman reflected his trauma. But in Batman vs. Superman, there was the first time. When he was fighting Superman, he got mad because Superman said Martha's name, and he thought he was disrespecting Batman thought he was disrespecting his mom. But then, I feel like he had a really good role, and a really good suit, with really good looking gadgets that really fit with the tone of the movie. And that will lead us into our cape, utility belt, and gadgets in the utility belt. So first, gadgets in the utility belt. I want the grappling gun, but I feel like we should do a little more, kind of like I feel like we should kind of do it like Michael Keaton, where it can go onto the belt if he needs it to, and then he can like make it go up. And I for sure feel like it should be like an animated series design, or like a Batman Hush grappling hook design, because I like the way Batman Hush looked, and I feel like that would be a really good a really good design to have. But because every other one, we've had some stupid, really tech-related grappling gun, unlike Batflex, where he just like, I like Batflex and Val Kilmer's, but I don't want it to look too goofy. I want it to be like maybe Batman Hush, or maybe New 52, Earth 1 possibly. But I don't really care what they do with the design. I just don't want it to be cartoony and stupid. And I want him to actually use it a lot, because in most of the movies, he does use it a decent bit, but I want him to be like at Batfleck, where Batfleck can barely like glide, because I want it to be like the OG Batman, where he flew around with his rope. He would swing his rope onto rooftops and he would flare his cape out. I feel like we should do something like that, because Batfleck, he couldn't glide. He could glide, but not that far, which that made him use his grappling hook for every situation. And I feel like we should have the bat rope along with the grappling gun, because the bat rope, that will be helpful for traversing buildings and swinging around the city if we don't give him the ability to glide. But I feel like the ability to glide would be very great for Batman, because I don't know, those scenes are just always super cool. And another gadget, he obviously has to have batarangs. We don't even need an explanation on why I want him to have batarangs. He needs batarangs. I want him to use them like a lot. Like all the time. I want the grappling gun, bat rope, and batarang to be his main used gadgets. I feel like the bat rope, like he should have a grappling hook and that feeds into like the bottom of the grappling gun, and then once he shoots it, like the rope on his belt, and it like retracts. But if they don't do that, that's fine. That's just like a funny idea I had, kind of like the World's Finest. After when he went to save Robin, you could see with his spear gun or his grappling gun, there was a rope loaded into the bottom instead of it just like being built into the gun, which that would be a way more realistic model, or a more accurate thing he would be able to use in real life. Because if you think about it, there are army ascenders, which are where you throw a grappling hook up to, like, I don't know, a building or something, and then you grab the ascender, put it on your harness, and then you just slowly go up. And I feel like that they should definitely do something like Dan Mora did, where Batman's rope feeds into the bottom, and then that makes his grappling hook like shoot out. Then his utility belt. I don't want it to be overdone, but I feel like a George Jimenez or Matt Fraction's Batman utility belt was perfect. Because it didn't look too techy, it didn't look too overdone, it looked just right. And I feel like the holster for the grappling gun on the back of his belt was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. It was peak. If we ever get an animated movie of like Absolute Batman and Matt Fraction's Batman, I for sure feel like that should like be included, because that was just such. I like when the grappling hook has a holster and he's not just pulling it out of his belt out of nowhere.